You were talking to Dave Thorpe. We're in the village of Thorpe, and
we don't own it, do you?
That's where the relationship ends. Family's been here for generations, but there's no other link. So as far as I know, the village Thorpe is spelt with an E on the end, and my name is without one. So.
And you run a garage now?
I do, yes. That's basically what I do for a living.
I've got to ask you, how do you get an organ into a garage? Why?
Well, it was a lifelong interest, right from being a child. We were taken to Blackpool and things on days out, and we went into the tower, and it sort of it all stems from that. I was hooked from the age of about 7 on the music which these instruments make. I thought, well, one day I'll try and get one and restore it, and actually when it did happen, it all happened very quickly, and it was all very unplanned.
Where did it come from?
It came originally from the ABC cinema in Derby, and
they were glad to get rid of it at the time, I suppose.
At the time, yes, in the 60s, the music was sort of not popular anymore, with the advent of rock and roll and such like, and the cinema organs were coming out left, right and centre and being sold for 10 quid to the nearest scrap man sort of thing. It took me about a week to dismantle it and load it all up and get it back here, and then...
What sort of a state was it in?
Completely dilapidated, full of rats, and a terrible mess really. That's why it took us 10 years to get the first sounds out of it really. I think for about the next 2 or 3 years we just looked at it in horror, wondering what we'd done. And
there wasn't a manual, I suppose?
No, definitely not. There aren't any manuals.
Or a wiring diagram?
There was an old gentleman in Burton-on-Trent which helped me a lot in the early days. He knew about these things and he set me on the right track. And once you get into them, it's one process happening a lot of times. It's not really terribly complicated, there's just a lot of it. So once you get interested, it's not too bad.
What on earth did your family think you were doing?
They weren't too pleased in the early days. No, they thought I should be concentrating on the garage. They're quite pleased now. I think they quite like the music from it, and my father's been a very good help with all the woodwork and things.
But we've lost the culture of cinema organs, haven't we? How were they used in the 30s?
Well, not so much in the 30s, but before then. They were originally put in there to accompany the silent films, and we've got all the bells and whistles and things which...
There must have been a big advance on pianos.
Yes, and of course the bigger cinemas in the early days had a complete orchestra, and so these organs developed as a cheaper version of the orchestra,
apart
basically.
From the capital cost?
Apart from the initial cost, yes, which was probably ranging between £1,000 and £2,000 in the 30s. Which I suppose if you were doing, employing an orchestra 3 or 4 times a day, you soon got your money back. So Compton, they're the big name that I know. Were there any other names? Compton was the sort of largest British manufacturer, along with Christie, which were a smaller one, but they were the two main British ones. But of course the main international one was Wurlitzer.
That's what Fats Waller used to play, wasn't it?
That's right, yes, he did, yes, he did. He actually had one installed in his home, and he did several recordings along with his orchestra that organ.
Several of them in different rooms, because it wasn't big enough.
That's right, yes, yeah, he did, yeah.
Well, now, a Compton organ, how does it work?
Basically,
not a typical church organ, is it?
Not quite. It's the same principles, but it works on slightly higher pressure. The reason for that being that you could get more volume of sound from fewer pipes, which was the name of the game. You know, you've not got a discerning audience in a cinema. They just wanted a quick fix, if you like, for 10 minutes while they bought their ice cream and popcorn.
So this is a culture I was referring to. When was it played? In the interval?
Yes, it was usually played in the interval and sometimes afterwards, but that's all it was designed to do, a quick 10-minute spot and fill in the gaps. And it gained popularity until it came to the situation where a lot of people went to the cinema just to hear the organ rather than the film.
How do you get hold of an organist? Where does such a person come from? Because it's a specialist organ. It's not a church organ. It's got lots of bells and whistles on it.
There's certainly a lot more organists than organ builders anyway. That's our main problem in the UK. We've got no one to look after these things anymore. So the organists aren't a problem. There's lots of those around. This particular organist, Christian Cartwright's totally self-taught. Yeah, he's learnt from. He reads music, but he's totally self-taught. And he's just experimented and listened to recordings and other organists. And there's a bit of lots of different organists in him, really. He's a superb player now. And he uses the instrument to its full. Demonstrates.
I can't think of many of the names of the organists. Somebody Robinson. At the Granada Tooting. Well, I thought it was a lovely name for an organ.
Yes.
Can you remember any of the big names? Who's Blackpool?
Yeah, there's lots of
Reginald Dixon?
Dixon at Blackpool
Yes.
was the sort of main entertainment organist up in the north. And there was Sidney Torch and Reginald Fort, who actually built a mobile theatre organ. Reginald Fort did, and carted that round with 6 lorries to theatres which didn't have an instrument.
So that's your next project?
No, definitely not. I think now this one's up and running, that'll be it for my little effort towards it all anyway.